Welcome to the sound of the start of a full slate EFL weekend. This is the NTT20 betting show. It's sponsored by Sky Bet. It's myself, Ali Maxwell, and a special guest going through the weekend slate and picking our best bets of the weekend. Therefore, it's very strictly for over 18s only. Gambling comes with risks. So please, if you're listening and thinking of placing a bet this weekend or anytime, be aware of the risks. Gambleaware.org, the best place for that. Team Europe did win the Ryder Cup. George Ellick did have a good time in New York, and he's taken the lesser spotted post-holiday holiday. So he is still absent, or perhaps in hiding because all of his picks lost last week. I'll let you decide which. So this week on the pod, well, it's basically like when MasterChef does MasterChef The Professionals, because on Monday we got 2 professional footballers and an EFL manager to replace George. And for this, it's pro punter Nick Goff. Welcome back, Goffy. How are you doing?
Good afternoon. Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really well. You had that residency, didn't you, last season around the time that George and I somehow decided to both have kids within the space of 4 weeks together. And I think you've had a much needed 10 months off after that, and hopefully back raring to go.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's a highlight of my week.
That's concerning, but good. Look, I want to ask you quickly. We love when you come on to hear about your world, your work, and in particular when it's relevant to betting on the EFL. This season, we're 8 games in the Championship. We're 10 games in League One and League Two. We've got what I would describe as a jumbled Championship, a funky League One, and a pretty classic League Two. And I just wonder, from a bettor's point of view, a professional bettor's point of view, when it is unpredictable, quote unquote, in that the teams we expected to win leagues and challenge quite at the moment, many of them aren't, is it enjoyable and profitable, or is it stressful and difficult?
Yeah, I'm more on I enjoy it, and I think we're seeing the same little things in all of the leagues. So the anti-post favourites, Ipswich, Southampton, Luton, MK Dons and Chesterfield, the teams that people thought might be capable of looking head and shoulders better than the league, aren't doing so. But in every case, there are reasons why you think they still might. There's still reasons why this team could still be better than the rest, but we're not seeing it from them right now. And that makes it really interesting. And you look at League Two and you think, I had MK and Chesterfield the best teams at the beginning, but right now, on the way teams are playing, Swindon and Walsall are just better than them. But player for player, are they? If the new players at MK start to settle in, can they show themselves by the turn of the year that they are the best team after all? So that's what I'm finding really interesting at the moment. And in the Championship, obviously with Ipswich and Southampton, you look at the names on the team sheets, you think these probably should still be the best 2 teams in the league, but they're sure as hell not playing like it because Mr. Coventry City are.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about that. We launched a new show at the start of this month called Good Month, Bad Month, which is our monthly predictions, exactly as it says on the tin. And yeah, it's funny. I think we were probably not saying anything groundbreaking when we both, individually we predicted Ipswich in George's case and Southampton in my case to have a good month of September, kind of new signings settling in and quality starting to shine through, cream rising to the top. And that hasn't been the case. And from our point of view, it's undeniably exciting, I must say. When it comes to last week, just to tie off our results, a bit of a mad one in that both of our naps lost, were losers. Wrexham drew with Derby, that Brereton Diaz worldie scuppering George. Barnet won, Oldham won. I was on Oldham. 2 penalties in that game, 1 each, and then Oldham coming on really strong in the second half, and quite a few people crossed off the Christmas card list. Kane Drummond in particular for a 2-on-1 with the keeper where he didn't square it and didn't score it, and you just can't do that. George didn't get his Preston next best up, nor the Luton Akerswerve, and Gus Harmer didn't score. My 120-1 fivefold, I said I was really excited about all my picks between 7 to 5 and 2 to 1, and none of them won, so that was horrendous. The BTTS was 3 out of 6, and yet I ended the week pretty nicely in profit because Goal Scorer Corner, for the first time this season, triumphantly justified its existence. A wise man once said, "A dog is for life, not just for Christmas." And then a less wise man applied that sentiment to betting on anytime goal scorers in the second, third and fourth tiers of the English football pyramid, because we stayed with Stephen Duke McKenna and he rewarded us with a goal at 12-1, the winning goal for Harrogate against Gills. We had 3/4 of a point on that. And the new puppy scored as well. That was Michael Mellon. We backed him for the first time. He got a penalty, a goal scored at 11-4 with a point on it. We'll absolutely take that. No luck for Mario Cozier-Dewberry this time. Did have a shot on target, but no goal. So yeah, long live Goal Scorer Corner, because that turned a horror week into a good one. I always feel it's a bit too much pressure to put on someone, Goffey, to come on just for 1 week and 1 week only and expect amazing things. But that's the pressure that we're putting on you. What's your best bet this weekend in the EFL?
It can go the other way around though, because if we're just on for 1 week, then I haven't got to come on and defend bad picks next week. We can just forget that ever happened. So there's no pressure. I would like to nap this week though. Stoke City draw no bet at evens away to Blackburn. I think Stoke should be favourites for this game. Let's start with a slight caveat that I'm generally aware of teams on back-to-back aways in these midweek weekend thing. I think it's tough in the Championship where every game is a grind to go on the road twice in 4 or 5 days. But I cannot skirt over how good a performance Stoke put in away to Middlesbrough on Tuesday night. No one goes to Middlesbrough and outplays them like Stoke did in the 0-0 draw. If anyone was going to win that game late on, it was going to be Stoke City. They were much the better team, and I think that's really impressive. 15 shots to 5 second half, 5-1 shot on target. That's a way to a very legitimate promotion, top 6 minimum side in Borough. So Mark Robbins maybe has got the blend right at Stoke now, after a lot of false dawns at Stoke City over the last 5 or 6 years, however long it is since they got relegated. Almost in every year, you've got through the summer window and thought Stoke ought to improve this season, and it really never happened. This year, it has happened, and they're a young team with sort of a lot of 22-year-olds, Cisse and Lowell at right back, and Phillips is only 20. And then that's blended in with some experience. Victor Johansson, for me, a goalkeeper I've loved for the last 4 or 5 years at this level. I think he's a really solid Championship keeper. Sorba Thomas feels like he's been around a long time, but only 26. And you can say the same about Ben Wilmot. So a real nice blend of experience and youth, who I think only are going to get better as the season goes on. While Blackburn have lost 3 of their last 4, beaten at home in midweek by Swansea, a team maybe of a similar sort of strength to Stoke. Have shown some glimpses in wins over Hull and Watford, but generally it looks like a project that's going to take a while for Ishmael, if he's going to get a while and if he is going to get it right. I find you can judge you can gauge how a fan base is feeling. If after a match you go onto the manager's, every club on their X page posts the manager's post-match thoughts. Just take a look at the responses as to how a fan base feels about a manager after a loss. And
okay, in my head, Goffey, there's basically 3 and 3 only. There's after a defeat or a disappointing draw, there's either this guy's a clown, get him out, what's he doing starting X left back instead of X left back, Y left back, or there's, well, at least he's saying it as it is, fair enough, like, I back him, or you've won and everything's great and the manager's the best in the league.
Yeah, no, occasionally you get the ones even on the back of losses, and our friend Johnny Jackson is the recipient of this right now. Even when they get beat, the fan base on the bottom of it are on to the next one, lads. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas 18 months ago, they were calling for JJ. Everyone loves him now. No one will ever call for his head again. So you can get those that are just absolutely on top of where they are. But Blackburn, and especially when there's a permanent dislike of the ownership, which is at Blackburn, even when they're doing well, they don't like the owners. So when things are not going well, that frustration probably manifests itself even quicker. And then we can talk about home advantage in the Championship, because this year there hasn't been any. Now, that obviously is a bit of an aberration, and at some stage home teams will do better than away teams. But as it stands right now, home teams have scored, I think it's 117 goals this season, and away teams won 2-1. So there's no advantage right now to being the home team in the Championship. Like we said, an aberration. But in Blackburn's case, where the fan base probably aren't going to get fully behind them because they're a bit annoyed about what's going on. The manager's not going to get as much time, a honeymoon period that he might get elsewhere in other circumstances. Stoke will take a decent travelling support there. minimise home advantage, and they're just a better team. So for me, draw no bet, even Stoke, they should be favourites.
Yeah, very nice. Their price caught my eye for sure. I'm in League One for my nap, and it is, well, the already mentioned Johnny Jackson's AFC Wimbledon draw no bet 7-4 against Blackpool. Start with Blackpool, Steve Bruce's Blackpool, of course. They are in the League One relegation zone after 10 games. That wasn't on anyone's agenda, really. Really strong underlying numbers to finish last season, which now you look back on and you think, was that a classic case of just like no real jeopardy in the last sort of 10, 12 games? And, Brucey giving some good vibes and a nice attacking 4-4-2, and no one, none of it really mattered. Everything we thought was going to happen with Blackpool, almost the opposite has happened. They're in the relegation zone. They've lost 6 of their 10 games, 1-2 and drawn 2. This is not a case of bad luck, good performances and okay numbers with, just bad outcomes or being poor in both boxes to start the season, which happens sometimes. This is a poor team, basically. They have the lowest expected goals in the league, per the Opta analyst. Therefore, one of the worst attacks in the league by that metric, the worst XG per shot in the league. So again, what do I deduce from that? Well, a lot of pot shots, not a huge amount of thought or obvious patterns of play in the last sort of 20 yards to create good chances. Just shoot on sight when you get there and don't get a lot from that. So among the worst attacking teams in League One, which no one saw coming, style-wise all over the place, not strong in settled possession, no real form of kind of build-up quality as far as I can see, but also not strong at attacking direct and with speed. And that's where, with Fletcher and Ennis last season and wingers off the side in that 4-4-2, it looked very potent and very difficult to defend against. But currently, it does not look like that. They've also, on top of that, faced the most shots in League One this season. How insane is that? That Blackpool could be the team that have faced the most shots in League One this season for a team with that budget. It's genuinely embarrassing. It really, really is. The quality of shot that they face is not great, so they're not... they're not the worst XG against team, but it's really unimpressive on both ends of the pitch. Ennis is injured now. Imre came off injured in midweek, having looked quite good as an attacking right back. There were no strikers on the bench in midweek, which meant that when Luton came back from 2-0 down to draw 2-2, Blackpool having gone ahead through a really poor goalkeeping error where Keeley pushed in or just missed a CJ Hamilton shot that was right at him from the left-hand side of the box. CJ Hamilton scored on the break. But outside of that, it wasn't like they were creating loads of openings. And sure enough, this kind of unconfident and incoherent team ended up throwing that lead away and drawing 2-2 with Luton. With Wimbledon, long term, it's not a stretch to feel like they will come into a tough spell. They had those even in League Two, where they didn't have one of the top 5, top 7 budgets in League Two. They clearly don't have the depth of squad that you would necessarily want ideally, but what they do have is a core of players who are all fit, available for every game, who've been playing together for at least a year, some of them 2 years, and who know exactly what to do to win football matches, and that's why they're in the position that they're in, having won 6 out of 10. There's no injuries that I can see. I was there last weekend as they beat Wickham. They've basically got 10 automatic starters at this point, and they're all fit and clicking, basically. Brown comes back from his suspension, 3 games since being sent off against Bolton. They've won all 3, so I'd be surprised if he goes straight back into the starting 11, and that's a good thing. What a great option for them to have off the bench. So for me, it's a pretty simple one, this. Like, remove the names and the badges of these two teams, the perceived budgets and the transfer spend and any ratings left over from last season, and just focus on the 10 games that we've seen. And one of these teams has a lot more confidence, tactical coherence. The players are settled and operate in a system they know and that suits them, and just appear to be far better at winning football matches than the other. And we're getting that team at 7-1, draw no bet. That's my best bet of the weekend. Wimbledon, draw no bet, 7-4 with Sky Bet at Blackpool. What's your next best?
I'm going to take, on Friday night, Birmingham City at 11-8 away to Wrexham. Now, September was a pretty tough month for Birmingham after settling into the Championship pretty well. Maybe there is a bit of a pressure on them after getting 111 points or whatever it was last year, and all the talk over the summer being Birmingham are the type of team that could go straight through Ipswich style. It's not easy to come into the Championship and become a top 6 side overnight, but I still think come the end of the season, that's roughly going to be where they. It's not a stroll to promotion, but they still are very much a top 6 challenger. And I expect there to be a reaction here to the disappointment of drawing midweek against Sheffield Wednesday. They just were expected to roll Sheffield Wednesday, but Sheffield Wednesday, in their current guise, and they might not be in that guise for much longer if they start to lose players down the line. It sounds like they weren't being paid again. It's a horrible scenario there, but right now, they're capable of going somewhere and mixing it at championship level. They went and won at Fratton Park and almost won at Birmingham. So I do expect there to be a reaction from that Friday night at Wrexham, who just look a little bit to me like they're priced on name still. They are seen as sort of a mid-table championship team, and none of my numbers suggest that's what they are at the moment. Now, they've signed a lot of new players, that's Wrexham's way, that are trying to bed in at the level. And some of them maybe will do. There's a couple of players in that team who are probably a legacy of past promotions and might never be quite championship mid-table players and might need to be replaced along the line. They've done well in patches. Good draw at Leicester, but Leicester could have been out of sight by half-time. In the end, Wrexham did well second half, but that game could have been over. But before that, they've only drawn at home to Derby. That isn't ideal against a side who are going to be struggling, and then well beaten at home by QPR as well. So they've not. It comes to the Championship with home form that's going to propel you, if you like. I think Birmingham are much the better side of the two, and are likely to be at the top end of the table. Where for Wrexham, for me, if these players don't settle down soon, might find themselves in a relegation scrap that their owners don't believe they should be in. But on the numbers so far, that's what they are. So 11-8 Birmingham City is a good bet for me on TV Friday night.
Very nice. Yeah, looking forward to that one. Goal Scorer Corner this week has a new member, but an old favourite, Laurent Tolai. He is Plymouth Argyle's striker. I'm backing him anytime at 5-2 with Sky Bet. That's joint best price in the market, and it's a 1-point play for me. Since joining, Tolai has scored 3 goals in 6 league games. He already had one for Vale before he moved as well, so that's 4 in total, 1 off the top scorers in League One, and 2 in the EFL Trophy as well for Argyle. So he's really settled in well. If you're going to, as Argyle did, if you're going to sign 2 young strikers early on in the window, but keep your number 9 shirt open, suggesting that you're looking for a big fish. I think they wanted Burrell. He went to QPR. I think they wanted Dale Taylor. He went to Blackpool. They've ended up with Port Vale's Laurent Tolai, who looks absolutely, he looks so good to start the season with Vale, and they've not overthought it. They've got him in, and he looks really good for them as well. He's had 24 shots inside the box in League One this season. Only Aaron Connolly has as many as that. I think they're neck and neck on 24 in the old inside the box stakes. And Argyle have the 6th best non-penalty XG in the division. So although they've been pretty wobbly, very high ceiling, very low floor so far this season, they have been creating chances. In particular, since Tolai has arrived, he's been on the end of a lot of them. This is a long old trip for Wigan. They have a very poor away record this season. No wins, 2 draws, 3 defeats. They've conceded 2 or more in 4 of their 5 away games. So we hope that Tolai should get some chances here and hopefully will take one. They also have Fox suspended, who got sent off late on in their last league game. Amoson's in really poor form, and they just don't have very many other sort of CB options, to be honest. So lots of reasons, I think, to think that Tolai and Argyle should have plenty of opportunities to score. And I think 5-2, I basically think Tolai's a runner for top goal scorer in League One. And I think if that's the case, then 5-2 for a home game against a team with a poor away record, we're not going to be getting that very much longer. So a point on Laurent Tolai, 5-2. A point again on Stephen Duke McKenna at 17-2. So we backed him at 12-1. He's into 17-2. It's obviously, they've bumped him up a little bit in the ratings. Harrogate are at home to Crewe on Monday night. I don't think they've gone far enough. I think there's still juice to squeeze here, because he's still being priced up alongside Crewe's left back and their central defensive midfielders, none of whom ever score. But Stephen Duke McKenna, to remind you, has scored in 4 of 10 league games this season, plays either off the left or off the right or as a number 10, but is that sort of player, has had a shot on target in each of his last 6 games, and only 3 players in League Two have had more shots on target than him this season. So for him to be priced up like he's a number 6, I just don't get it. And we're going to keep betting him until he is not that. So 17-2, 1 point. And then lastly, half a point on Connor Taylor. He is Wycombe's very tall centre-back. And they are playing against Barnsley at home this weekend. Barnsley quite a short team. Jack Shepherd and Josh Earl are the centre-backs. I wouldn't say either of them have got a reputation for being absolute monsters in the air. And outside of them, it's not like they supplement that with a load of tall other dudes, right? Ogbetter and Watson, the fullbacks, not that up for it, I wouldn't suggest. Bland and Connell, the centre midfielders, and then a lot of sort of technical types up front rather than big dudes. So I think could be quite vulnerable from set plays. And Taylor, I saw him live in front of me on last weekend. He's absolutely colossal. Not an amazing goal-scoring record. Scored 3 in one season for Bristol Rovers in League Two a couple of years back. Only 1 for them at this level last season. So this is really just sort of eye test and gut instinct as much as anything else. But half a point on Connor Taylor to score any time for Wycombe against Barnsley. That's 14-1. Any goal scorer action for you this week, Goffy?
I'll throw one in. I wanted to oppose Sheffield Wednesday at set pieces because they are conceding the most of them, and then a high percentage of opportunities per set piece conceded as well. So they're not only conceding a lot of set pieces by being the worst team in the league, but when they do, teams are creating a lot of chances off of them. And so they play Coventry City, who are likely to score a few goals there, I'd imagine, this weekend. The two central defensive combination is Bobby Thomas and Liam Kitchen. Thomas has already scored this season, and he's significantly shorter in the market than Kitchen, who I noticed had 2 shots on goal from long throws 2 games ago against Birmingham City. So they're obviously targeting him from long throws, throwing the kitchen sink at it, if you like.
Lovely. Lovely.
He's 11-1 to score any time at Hillsborough, which I thought was very reasonable.
Yeah. Okay, Liam Kitching can join Connor Taylor as our big meaty CBs this week. Now, George has been acca swerving this season with some pretty good ones, to be fair. He's taking on, odds-on shots, and I think he's maybe 3 of 7 now. So, he wants to be around that 50% mark for us to know that it's worthwhile. And I imagine this is the sort of thing that really gets your juices flowing as well in your world, Goffy, taking on the shorties.
I love it. I love this addition to the show. And when I listen to the show, I fast forward to Aka Swerve to find out what it is before I listen to the rest of it, because it's the bit I want to know most. As an aside, the music you play into, they're walking down Main Street, because I always listen to the pod on 1.25 speed. I heard that song the other day on normal speed. I thought, this isn't it. It's too slow. And I've realised I've only ever listened to it. Yeah. I actually thought the 1 1/4 speed was how that song was supposed to be played. I've only just figured out it's not. Anyway, you didn't come.
Do you know what? I'm exactly the same. I listen to all pods on zippy speed, and yeah, the first chord of our intro music when you're on normal speed is, it's the longest chord you've ever heard. Doesn't make any sense if you're a speedster like you and me.
Anyway, sorry, Aka Swerve's a great addition to the show, because I'm only here for 1 week, and because what we discussed earlier about the top teams not really firing, I think it's a great opportunity to mention a few favourites, 3 of them I'm going to name here, who I just would not be putting anywhere near an accumulator this weekend at the prices that they are. Let's start in the East Anglian derby, Ipswich against Norwich. Ipswich are 11-20, almost 1-2, to win their local derby against what has looked a poor Norwich side. However, I speak to a Norwich fan quite frequently, and he told me that when they play Wednesday night against West Brom, although they lost 1-0, is the best he's seen them play this season. Mm-hmm. So maybe Liam Manning is just starting to get there with Norwich, because it is still looking a bit worrying. Norwich expect to be in and around the top 6 in the Championship every time they're in it. Now, the last 3-4 games, you thought this is potentially a relegation battling side. But last night they played a bit better, albeit they got beat again. So a big job on Manning's hands to sort it, and they're at the lowest ebb for a little while, Norwich. But maybe there was just a few signs the other night that they can go to an Ipswich side who are hit and miss themselves. When they hit, and those names on the team sheet we discussed, they can beat Sheffield United 5-0. They did that. When they miss, they certainly didn't outplay Bristol City away the other night. They took 117 minutes to equalise against Derby the other week, and they were lucky to get the game called off at Blackburn. So there's a bit more misses than hits with Ipswich still, and 11-20. That is ridiculously short in what's, a local derby, which can be a cliche leveller as well. Going down into League One, Bolton are 2-5 at home to Peterborough. Now, what to make of Peterborough is a bit of a conundrum at the moment as well. I listened to Dower on his podcast the other day, and he's convinced they need to be getting themselves up the table and out of it, as he well would. But they spent a lot of money on Leonard and a few others, and he's right to demand better. That away game at Plymouth not long ago, they were genuinely quite good and scored a lot of goals in the cup in the week, albeit against an under-21 side, but they did it. Then at home to Lincoln last Saturday, completely stunk the place out. So I think Peterborough might be one of those teams now that are going to be much worse than they expect to be, and towards the bottom, in the bottom half of the table, but with a real high upside that every now and again can just go and throw a performance out there that makes you think, well, Peterborough are capable of that, and some of the other teams down there, your Exeters and your Northamptons, just wouldn't be capable of. Peterborough might have that in them, in which case you don't want to be taking short prices against them, especially when Bolton, they're capable of the odd slip up of their own. And I've had a few dodgy results, even though their numbers are very strong and they look like being a top 6 side. Couldn't take 2-6 there. And let's finish with 4-6 Cardiff at home to Orient. Cardiff have got beaten their last 2 home games. They went off 4-9 against Burton in the week, and then before that, odds on again at home to Bradford, got soundly beaten 3-1. So they've been top of the league, but they haven't been there with standout top of the league numbers. They're a good League One side, no doubt, but any thought that they might stroll their way to the title was far too premature. And maybe they're just starting to feel the pressure now in front of a home crowd that is expecting them to go back up straight away. And they've got beaten their last 2, come up against an Orient side. Richie Wellens has had a bit of a moan recently about various things, and all doesn't seem to be completely right at Orient. But these 2 losses, they've lost 2 games by 1 goal recently. Stevenage at home and away against someone I forget, but in both games, the numbers were almost like a 50-50 game, and on another day could easily have gone the other way. And then before that, they won away to Port Vale, who's surprisingly good this year, Vale. So I don't think the form's quite as bad as people have made out with Orient. And again, at 4-6, I would not want to be on Cardiff. If that's the last leg of your ACCA here, you can find better 4-6 shots than that. And that's the idea of ACCA Swerve. Just put you off one. I don't expect all 3 of these not to win, by the way. It's not like a treble or something. But I think all 3 prices are wrong, and I'd be surprised if they all won.
I don't think any podcast guest host has ever bought into a feature as much as you've just bought into the ACCA Swerve. Genuinely almost in tears at the passion there. Absolutely love it. I am walking tentatively into the Eggman, which is my ACCA, thankfully with none of the mentioned swerve candidates. It's a 4-fold this week at 62.39 with Skybet as we record. So that means no ACCA freeze, as that is 5-folds and upwards. But this is my approach this week. Sheffield United against Hull. I am putting them in as my first selection, the only one in the Championship. I just find it hard to take Hull too seriously when their defensive performances are as they are. Looking at their FB ref page, they have conceded 2.8 XG or more in 3 of their 8 league games this season, which is just absurd levels of shoddiness at the back. They haven't kept an opponent to less than 1 XG yet this season, and obviously in the attacking sense, it's very eye-catching to see Ollie McBurney scoring seemingly in every game, and quite often from Ryan Giles cutbacks, and that does seem like the sort of thing that could happen over and over again until McBurney has 50 goals and Hull are in mid-table. But it's 6 goals from 3.6 XG, something like that. McBurney's hot streak in front of goal is massively papering over Hull City cracks, and that's probably not going to last forever. Whereas Sheffield United, who have almost equally bad defensive numbers, have at least taken some pretty drastic steps to make them better. That was sacking Ruben Sayes, bringing in Chris Wilder. Lo and behold, 3 league games for Wilder so far, and 2 of them against Charlton and Oxford, their best defensive performances of the season, way more solid defensively, even in what was a 1-0 defeat against Charlton and then a 1-0 win against Oxford. Midweek, Saints had a penalty, which kind of ramps up their XG and did score 2 against them. But overall, I'm saying confidently, they're better defensively, and that's something that Wilder's clearly gone in to sort out first and foremost. They still haven't clicked going forward, but Hull so leaky at the back that I think, Tyrese Campbell, Callum O'Hare, Gus Harmer, the individual quality should show, and I think Sheffield United are a worthy price. I'm adding Plymouth Argyle in there as well. I think, I think Tolai is value for a goal. I think Wigan's away record is alarming. It's a long old trip for them, and they looked really poor last weekend. And I think at 6-4 Argyle, I'm just about happy enough to get with a team who they do freak me out a bit, Argyle, because they could easily lose 4-0, but it feels like they could easily win 4-0, and the last few weeks have been more 4-0 winny than 4-0 defeaty. So let's go Argyle at 6-4. Grimsby, I was a bit disappointed earlier, Goffy, where you were naming the teams that you thought were the best in League Two, and you said Swindon and Walsall, because I was going to say that I think Grimsby might be the best team in League Two. Instead, I'll just downgrade it to top 3 level, because then we can squeeze them all in together. For me, it's that sort of... Grimsby seem to have almost like an automated way of getting shots, creating chances, like relentless attacking team. Not just when they're winning 7-1 against Cheltenham, but in basically every league game so far, they have been a real threat. And it just seems, this is spread across individual players. So it's that sort of, this is a team that's good quality rather than just individual players. They're playing against Salford, who certainly have the more eye-catching individual players perhaps throughout the pitch, and definitely have a high ceiling. We've seen that in the last few weeks. They've had some good results, but I think also have a lower floor than Grimsby, and I think Grimsby are more of a well-oiled machine. Their only 2 defeats have come weekend after they've won big games in the Carabao Cup against Manchester United and against Sheffield Wednesday. They've had the midweek off this week, and I expect them to, take Salford to task. I think they're just, what are they? Yeah, just a shade under 2-1. And we finish off all the way on Monday Night Football, Harrogate against Crewe Alex. Harrogate at 21-10. Over 2-1 here to win the game against a Crewe side that I got against in the Eggman last week. They beat Notts County, but one of those, Goffy, where you're like, yeah, no, I'm still pretty happy I had that bet. Beat Notts, the first shot of the game was a header from Dimitri from a set piece, which put them ahead. They then were up against it for 86 minutes, including not scoring a nice equaliser and missing a ton of other chances, and then nicked one with a penalty right at the end. It wasn't a win that fills me with confidence. Their results and their numbers were really strong for 4 games and then slid massively the last 6. And I think that Harrogate, who, maybe I'm a bit biased because we had James Belshaw on the pod on Monday, but, it is quite compelling when someone comes on and gives you the old, we know what we are, we know what the expectations are, we fly under the radar, we try and win our home games, we all that sort of stuff. And I do think 21-10 is good value for Harrogate. So they're the 4th leg of the fourfold, which is Sheffield United in the Champ, Plymouth in League One, and then Grimsby and Harrogate in League Two. So let's finish off with the joint bet, BTTS 6-fold. It's at 21-1 as we record with Sky Bet. Goffy?
Yes, I'll start with Hull Sheffield United for some of the reasons that you put forward in having a Sheffield United bet, that Hull's games are not serious. Both teams to score in every game in September. Now 6 of the last 7. They've scored twice themselves in 4 of the last 6. Conceded twice in 6 of the last 7. Absolutely fancy Blades to score here with the attack, less blunt than it used to be. Now Wilder's back. Need Hull to score here, but their record of scoring in games is pretty good. So I'm happy to take a chance on that. I'll also take a chance on the Cheltenham Fleetwood one. Fleetwood, again, another team who are BTTS in their last 3 games. A 4-2 loss last week, a 4-2 win last week, home to Colchester, who aren't exactly a high goal team themselves. So that was a notable one. And Cheltenham shipped 7. They also shipped their manager. And maybe they might get a little manager bounce here and be able to find a goal, because they've only scored 4 all season. If it carries on like that, they'll be playing National League football next year, won't they? So I'll take a chance on them being able to find the net. And another game you mentioned as my last one, Salford Grimsby. Salford, both teams to score every game for quite a while now, and also they've had in And in Grimsby, they've had a 3-2 win at MK, a 3-3 draw at Harrogate earlier on in the season. Lots of high-scoring stuff in their games. Two of the teams that, if you think Grimsby are about the third best team in the league, Salford are probably 6th or 7th themselves. So equally matched, hammer and tongs League Two football at the Peninsula Stadium. That's its name, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. I've got Argyle against Wigan, my third mention for that game. We want a Talai goal, a Plymouth win, and BTTS. Trying to thread the needle with quite a lot here. 3.3 goals per game for Argyle this season, but only 4 out of 10 BTTS was a real WTF moment of research earlier. I don't think there's anything particularly, like, I think that's random, basically. Like, I don't think you can be a team whose games average 3.3 goals per game but be specifically BTTS no-y. I don't think there's a trait which is like we're either win to nil and our defense is amazing and our attack is amazing, or everything's horrendous and we lose to nil. I think more likely they're just quite an open side, high margin side, and I think BTTS in that Wigan game is a good shout, because Wigan pretty dangerous going forward, if not very good at the back. Notts against Oldham's going in here as well. So close to backing Oldham here. They're longer than 2-1 at Notts. Notts numbers are really good, but I'm really strong on Oldham being a top 3 type team. So that's 4 top 3 type teams. 2 for you, 2 for me. Let's go from this moment an Oldham Grimsby match bet against Walsall and Swindon. I think you'd probably win that, but I'm really strong on Oldham at the moment. I think they're excellent, and while Notts are not far off that, I still think there's something about Notts which I would try and define as, like, I think they like to make hay while the sun shines, and if they're in control against a team and ahead against a team who's not really up for dealing with their threats, they can go 3-4-0, and they've done that a couple of times. But I'm not sure they really like the tough times, and there's been a couple of games where they've just lost to teams who maybe have bullied them a little bit. I think Oldham can do that. BTTS in Notts Oldham. And Wycombe Barnsley to finish off in League One. Yeah, that Barnsley back line not standing up that well to pressure in the last few weeks. Looked particularly poor against Vale last week in a 2-0 defeat. But they do have McGoldrick and Keylor Dunn and Vickers and Phillips. And Wycombe, I watched them play Dons Wimbledon last week, and their defence just didn't look that good or scary. Taylor is massive, and we hope that he'll score for them here. But Taylor Allen, Connor Taylor, Daniel Harvey, Jack Grimmer, I don't think of these guys as like standout individual defenders for the level. And Mike Duff might get them playing as a good unit, but I fancy Barnsley to score. So the sixfold is Hull Sheffield United in the Championship. In League One, Plymouth Wigan and Wycombe Barnsley. And in League Two, Cheltenham Fleetwood, Salford Grimsby, and Notts Oldham. That's at 21-1 with Sky Bet. So there we go. Goffy, before we let you go, please could you recap your selections?
Yes, the nap is Stoke, draw no bet, even money away to Blackburn Rovers. And the next best is Birmingham City 11-8 to win the game at Wrexham. The first goal scorer is, anytime goal scorer, Liam Kitching 11-1 away to Sheffield Wednesday for Coventry. Ackerswerve, 3 selections to leave out of your Ackers. Ipswich 11-20. Bolton 2-5, Cardiff 4-6, and 3 teams in the BTTS Acker, 3 games: Hull Sheffield United, Cheltenham Fleetwood, Salford Grimsby.
Thank you. Yeah, some really, really interesting stuff in there. My nap is Wimbledon draw no bet at Blackpool at 7-4. The goal scorer corner has Stephen Duke McKenna at 17-2. 1 point play anytime for Harrogate at Crewe, against Crewe rather, at home to Crewe on Monday night. Laurent Talai at 5-2 for Argyle against Wigan, another 1 point stake, and then half a point on Connor Taylor of Wycombe at 14-1. All prices with Sky Bet. The Eggman, the fourfold this week, 62.39 the price, has Sheffield United, has Plymouth Argyle, has Grimsby, and then on Monday night it'd be lovely to get there, still running, Harrogate at home to Crewe with McKenna hopefully in the starting lineup as well. I'll be glued to it if so, and if not actually, because I like it when there's League 2 games getting prime time slots. The BTTS sixfold: Hull Sheffield United, Plymouth Wigan, Wycombe Barnsley, Notts against Oldham, Cheltenham Fleetwood, and Salford Grimsby. Thank you for that, Goffy. Hope you enjoyed it.
No problem at all.
And thank you to Sky Bet for sponsoring the pod. Thank you to the Reverters for playing us out, whether it's in 1 times speed, 1 times 5, 1.5, 1.8, 2 times, 3 times, whatever it is. Cheers and go well.